SoulSight, the silence of God. Welcome to SoulSight, a space where we don't give easy answers, but ask the questions most people are afraid to sit with. In today's video, we explore one of the deepest and most uncomfortable questions of all. If God exists, why is there so much silence? Why does suffering continue? Why does belief divide? And why do the questions never seem to end? Let us begin. Before we speak about God, we must first speak about ourselves, because every idea of God has always carried the fingerprints of humanity. We imagine God as powerful because we fear powerlessness. We imagine God as just because we fear injustice. We imagine God as eternal because we fear death. But what if God is not the answer to our fears? What if God is the question we never stop asking? We are told God created humans. But what if humans created God to survive their own awareness? The awareness that life is fragile, that suffering is real, that death is certain, and that meaning is not guaranteed. The moment humans became conscious, they also became afraid. Afraid of the dark, afraid of loss, afraid of chaos, afraid of being alone in a silent universe. And silence is terrifying, so we filled silence with stories. Stories of creators, stories of protectors, stories of watchers in the sky who see what we cannot control. And slowly, those stories became sacred. We are told God gives us freedom. But freedom is dangerous. Freedom allows mistakes. Freedom allows cruelty. Freedom allows chaos. And chaos scares us. So we create rules and call them divine. We create order and call it holy. We create boundaries and call them truth. But if God truly values freedom, why are we punished for using it? If God truly respects choice, why is disobedience met with fear? If God truly loves humanity, why does love come with conditions? Freedom with punishment is not freedom. Love with threat is not love. Faith with fear is not faith. It is obedience. We are told God is all-knowing, that He knows our future before we are born. Then tell me, how can choice exist in a future already known? If God knows every mistake I will make, was it ever avoidable? If my failure is already seen, am I responsible or just predictable? If destiny exists, where does accountability live? And if destiny does not exist, what exactly does God know? The idea of an all-knowing God collides violently with the idea of free will. Both cannot stand fully without weakening the other. Yet we are told to accept both without questioning. But contradiction does not disappear because it is uncomfortable. We are told suffering is necessary, that pain shapes character, that hardship builds strength. But suffering does not discriminate. It crushes children. It destroys innocence. It silences the voiceless. What lesson is taught to a child who dies in agony? What character is built in someone who never survives? If suffering is a test, why are some never given the chance to pass? If suffering is purification, why does it often corrupt instead of enlighten? If suffering brings wisdom, why does it so often bring despair? We are told God does not interfere because He respects free will. But nature does not respect free will. Earthquakes do not choose victims. Diseases do not ask permission. Floods do not test morality. If God controls nature, then free will is irrelevant. If God does not control nature, then omnipotence collapses. And if God allows suffering without intervention, what does compassion mean? We are told to pray, to ask God for help. But prayer does not stop bullets. Prayer does not cure cancer. Prayer does not rebuild cities. Action does. Science does. Human courage does. So what is prayer? Is it communication with God or conversation with ourselves? Is prayer meant to change reality or change the one who prays? If prayer works only when humans act, then humans, not God, are the true agents of change. And if prayer works without action, why does suffering persist? We are told holy books contain truth, but truth has never needed protection. Truth does not fear questions. Truth does not demand obedience. Truth does not threaten punishment. Only fragile ideas do. Holy books were written in time, in cultures shaped by fear, power, and survival. They reflect their era, yet we freeze them and call them eternal. If morality was written once and forever, why does it keep changing? Why do we reject slavery now, but once justified it using God? Why do we reject oppression now, but once sanctified it with Scripture? If God's morality is perfect, why does it need updating? Or was it never divine, only human? We are told God is everywhere, yet presence without interaction is indistinguishable from absence. If God is everywhere but never responds, what difference does presence make? If God watches suffering without acting, is observation meaningful? We are told God is love, but love is not invisible. Love shows itself. Love intervenes. Love protects. A parent who watches a child suffer without acting is not loving. If God is a parent, what kind of parent remains silent while children suffer endlessly? We are told God is just, but justice delayed infinitely is not justice. Justice that favors belief over behavior is not justice. Why is belief valued more than kindness? Why is worship valued more than empathy? Why is obedience rewarded while compassion is optional? We see violence committed in God's name, wars, murders, oppression. If God is against violence, why does His name empower it? Either God is powerless to stop misuse, or God is indifferent to it. Neither reflects perfection. We are told God created humans flawed, then punishes them for being flawed. What kind of justice creates weakness and then condemns it? If God wanted obedience, why create curiosity? If God wanted submission, why create reason? If God wanted silence, why give us voices? Doubt is not a defect. Doubt is honesty refusing comfort. Doubt is courage in a world addicted to certainty. The one who questions is called atheist, but the atheist may be more honest than the believer who never thinks. Blind belief is easy. Questioning is costly. Yet without questioning, humanity would never progress. Science was once heresy. Reason was once rebellion. So if God created humanity, He also created doubt. And if doubt exists, it must have purpose. Maybe God is not found in answers. Maybe God lives in the space between questions, in silence, in humility, in uncertainty. Maybe God is not an authority above us. Maybe God is a responsibility within us. The responsibility to reduce suffering, to question cruelty, to choose compassion, even without belief. Maybe the real test was never belief. Maybe the real test was humanity. And in a universe that does not answer, the greatest act of faith is choosing to be human anyway. If this reflection stayed with you, take a moment to let it settle. If it challenged you, that is not a bad thing. At SoulSight, we believe growth begins where comfort ends. If you found value here, consider liking this video so it can reach others who think deeply too. Subscribe to SoulSight for more quiet, honest explorations of life, belief, and meaning. And in the comments, share one thought that stayed with you, not an answer, just a question you're still carrying. Because sometimes, the most powerful conversations begin with silence.